Prince Alwaleed bin Talal is here. He's chairman of the Kingdom Holding Company. The Saudi Arabian investment firm has substantial stakes in some of the world's leading companies. News Corp, Citigroup, Apple, and Twitter are just a few of his sizable positions. Kingdom Holding also has ownership in luxury hotel brands, including the Four Seasons. Prince Alwaleed is the largest individual foreign investor in the United States. Time magazine has called him the Arabian Warren Buffett. I am pleased to have him back at this table. Welcome. Is all of that, it's hard to keep up with you, all those things true in terms of your investment portfolio, or have you significantly reduced one or the other?
No, that's true.
They're pretty much true.
That's true.
So is that in confidence in the United States reflected by your portfolio?
Yeah, there's no doubt the confidence in the United States economy is great and spectacular. No doubt that the political bickering in Washington does not help the overall ambience and attitude towards the United States. But really, long-term investors have no choice but to keep looking at the United States very seriously.
And what about its treasuries, and what about its confidence in its future reflected by the treasury market?
It's very clear that when the United States rating was reduced by Moody's, the reflection of the stock market was going the other direction, whereby interest rates went down further.
Exactly. It did.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. It shows you the amount of confidence the people have in the United States. So if the United States politicians get their house in order in Washington, I think the United States could be on track very fast. And even the unemployment could go down.
Unemployment would go down. But does this in any way impede what many people believe will be the Chinese century?
You know, if it's a Chinese century, doesn't mean that it's not going to be also the century of the United States and the whole world.
Right.
The whole world is changing dramatically. So yes, I agree. China is now the rising star in the whole world, and it's going to exert its power and hegemony, no doubt about that. But the United States is still way far ahead of China, India, and many other countries. If you look at the GDP of the United States, it's still double of China. And although China eventually may overtake the United States in the total GDP, which is really quantitative.
Right.
But qualitatively, which is GDP per capita, it will take decades for China to even come even near the United States.
Yeah. What other parts, when you look at the global economy, I mean, are you reasonably confident about things now that we've survived and put in place things that will make it unlikely that we run into another kind of bubble like we found in the credit bubble?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt there are some challenges facing the world economies. But if the United States, we still have this January deadline whereby the budget deficit discussion will have to take place, and the national debt situation will have to be discussed also in February. So hopefully these two matters will be resolved, and I hope that those extremists on both sides of the parties, Republicans and Democrats, have learned the lessons and they get the house in order. Yes, I'm optimistic in general about the world economy and the United States specifically.
People look at the United States and they say two important things. One, there is this innovation of, there's a culture of innovation. There is a sense of, if you look at all the great companies, Twitter, for example, being the most latest example, which you made a fortune. If you look at that, they say that's in the American DNA. That's number one. Number two, they say they now have energy on its side, and that all those combinations of things, the entrepreneurial climate, and the energy.
Yeah, as I told you, America, yes, is down in many areas, but still it's not out at all. And I think you have a lot of tailwind behind you. The issue of shale gas that's been found in the United States, and even the classical oil and gas production increase, will make the United States not only self-sufficient in energy, as the latest studies have shown, but also the United States could be a net exporter, which is a very big boost for its economy, and also for the many industries that are functioning in the United States. So yes, I believe the United States has a lot of still entrepreneurial mentalities, such in all the big companies that are in technology with breakthroughs like Google, Facebook, Twitter. All these companies are present in the United States, and the innovation in the United States, will not stop for sure.
And Saudi Arabia, your country, with a dependence on its oil, is it going to have to change because the United States and other countries will become net exporters, not net importers?
Although the United States will be a net exporter, still other countries are going to be importers. Having said that, our country, Saudi Arabia, still depends on oil for 92% of its budget depends on oil, which is a very high number. Actually, it's a dangerous number. So it's very important for Saudi Arabia, and I'm pushing very hard my country and the concerned politicians in my country to really try to diversify the economy from not being only oil-based. So even the United States dependence on oil diminishes, others still depend on it. But having said that, it's not enough at all to be very much a one commodity-oriented nation.
Are they listening to you?
They are listening because I'm not the only one talking. The whole nation is talking to them. I'm only one of those people who are seeing the lights of the train coming from very far away, but it's coming up very in a fast way.
How is Saudi Arabia changing today?
You know, King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia is definitely a reform-minded person.
You can tell.
Yeah, and he tries to do his best to reform the nation. If you can look at the nation 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and now, a lot of changes are happening right now. And but he clearly has several constituencies in Saudi Arabia. You have the liberal constituency, the moderates, and the conservatives. So he has to balance between all these three. But all in all, he's reform-minded, and he is on track really to establish more reforms.
Which one of those communities are you in?
I'm really mainstream Saudi Arabia. I'm very moderate with mainstream Saudis who are really not in the extreme sides of the equation.
But in terms of change, I mean, everybody talks about women and the role of women in the society. How significant is the rhetoric about change? Is it real? Is it, you have pushed hard for the role of women in the Saudi society?
It is very real, and as you see, the government's reaction to the latest woman drive movement has been very much subdued and has been very much relaxed, whereby all those women who drove the cars, they were just given some citations and they were let to drive. They were given their freedom. So I believe that this issue of women driving, which is really a very minimum situation, this is at minimum we need in Saudi Arabia for women. It's going to happen eventually, no doubt about that.
So what worries you?
I mean, what worries me, what worries the whole world is that what's happening in our region, you know, and the political turmoil in Iran, in Syria, and Iran's open willingness to have nuclear weapons. So these are major issues that are really facing our region.
So where is it in terms of, how do you see the change in Bashar al-Assad and his position in Syria vis-a-vis the rebels?
As stands today, President Bashar's position is a lot stronger than it was a few months ago. Clearly, when President Obama has drawn the red line, and that red line was crossed, and the deal was brokered by Putin, whereby the chemical weapons were supposed to be given away, and to prevent that the military strike, has really strengthened Bashar's Assad's position, because it created havoc and confusion among all the rebellious groups that were counting and betting on having the strike diminish the power, the military power of Bashar al-Assad in Syria.
The military strike, notwithstanding conflict within them, would have benefited them overall, and then they would have had a fight over what follows Assad.
Yeah, and what's happening right now, that they are fighting among themselves right now, because there are so many parties. Some of them are very much left-wing, some of them right-wing, some of them jihadists, some of them selfish. So really, they don't have a coherent plan also.
But the jihadists and the Salafists and all of the, are they, what percentage of the rebels are they? And what remains of what was the beginning a sort of rebel force not principally populated by Islamists?
Well, unfortunately, as stands today, the majority of those rebellious groups are really jihadists and Afghani-type jihadists.
Al-Qaeda affiliates.
And the United States understands this very well. And that's why the position of the United States, Mr. Obama and Mr. Kerry, has been moving very slowly but surely towards the fact of really taking your time and not to rush the exit of Bashar from his position right now.
And do you think that was part of the reason they pulled back from the attack, that perhaps they could moderate and not rush him out of power because they feared what would happen if he was eliminated?
Exactly. I mean, Vladimir Putin has seen this opening, and he mediated between the United States and Syria. And sure enough, President Obama immediately grabbed that opportunity and instead of going attacking Syria militarily, he accepted to take the to take out the chemical weapons of Bashar peacefully.
It is said that your government was very much opposed to that because they fear most of all Iran and the competition with Iran for supremacy in the Middle East. And it caused them, because the president took that choice, to have some reservations about him.
Yeah. If I can summarize to you the position of Saudi Arabia and the United States in a very short sentence, the United States' position is to have the devil you know in Syria rather than devil you don't know. Saudi Arabia's position is really to have any devil in Syria rather than than the devil you know. That's a major difference between Saudi Arabia and the United States in that position. United States' position right now, I believe they have the contract with Bashar al-Assad to submit, to give all his chemical weapons back. So they cannot renege on that contract, because the doomsday scenario, if Bashar falls right now, who's going to have possession of these chemical weapons? Right. It's going to be a jihadist, Salafist, Afghani-type rebellious group. And the United States knows that very well. So yes, I think
so we have an interest in Assad staying in power until all those chemical weapons are eliminated, at least until then.
That's for sure. I mean, there's unwritten contact with the United States right now and the world community and Bashar al-Assad to give up his weapons. And sure enough, by the deadline of 1st November, whereby he was supposed to give back all his all the equipment that manufactures such weapons were done a day before the deadline. Right now, we have another deadline, which is really in June, to have all these chemical weapons destroyed.
Let me turn to Iran. What is the Saudi position on Iran and Iran's acquisition of nuclear weapons?
Well, for sure, the position of Saudi Arabia is like the position of the United States and everybody else in the world, is that to have Iran nuclear free. And we are very concerned from the position of the United States, Britain and France, although France took a good position in the 5+1 discussions in Geneva, but still they went very far and fast, and they sent their charge d'affaires to Tehran. This gives the wrong message for Tehran. And even the United States now, by trying to loosening up the sanctions that really brought them to the negotiation table, is not really prudent at all. I think they have to keep the pressure on right now and not to give any concession, no matter how small it is.
Okay. Even though John Kerry said that they were among the people who own the U.S. side, including the French and the other European countries, were united and had one position, you're saying that that's not true, that in fact that France was opposed to where they were going and wanted tougher measures.
It's very clear. Yeah, France was against, and they were the most aggressive among the five.
A new France, huh?
Oh, yes. Assertive.
Well, yes, assertive France. Also, Saudi Arabia, there is much talk that, I mean, you feel that the Israelis are getting closer, and would the Saudis like for the Israelis to do something about whatever facilities the Iranians have now, the number of centrifuges and what's happening to those centrifuges, as well as the plutonium center?
Well, I think, you know, the United States, I mean, position of not having a very disciplined policy and very clear strategy towards Iran is creating a lot of confusion and a lot of worries among all its allies, whether it's Israel or Saudi Arabia or even other GCC countries in our region. So I think it's very important for the United States to be assertive in this matter and not to blink whatsoever, because it is the economic pressures and the economic sanctions that got Iran to the negotiations table.
There's an opinion in some sectors of the world expressed by Prince Bandar, as well as the former head of intelligence, Prince Turki Al-Faisal,
yes,
that the United States cannot be trusted, that they don't believe necessarily that when push comes to shove, the president will strike against Iran if negotiations fail. And you share that view.
I mean, the perfect example is the red line that was drawn and was crossed and nothing happened.
In Syria?
Oh, sure. This shows the point. And
so it leads to what conclusion in your own words?
My conclusion is that the United States has to readdress its foreign policy. It has to have a very clear, well-defined strategy towards the Middle East, whereby when a red line is drawn and is crossed, the United States has to abide by its commitments.
But you don't believe the United States can be trusted to live up to its commitments if, in fact, sanctions do not work.
No.
And it does not force the Iranians to reduce their centrifuges.
Yeah. No doubt that the internal situation in the United States also is influencing its foreign policy. having the Obamacare situation, you have the budget deficit situation, you have the national debt issue that's going to all come.
Right.
All this putting a lot of pressure in the administration, whereby they would like to finish very fast and expeditiously, without any conclusive manner, some of the foreign policies issues such as Iran. And this is very dangerous because this is a time bomb. You cannot have Iran with nuclear weapons. This will disrupt the whole...
But what do you mean? They want to push it on to the next administration that have to make the decision about what you do about Iran?
No, what I'm saying is that they are in a rush to have an agreement with Iran, even if it is not very good agreement, even if it's a lousy agreement or a bad agreement.
All right, let me turn to your businesses. Twitter, you had a $300 million investment, turned out to be $1 billion after the public offering. That was the value of it. What do you think the future of Twitter is?
I think the business model of Twitter has proven itself to be successful.
If they can monetize it.
Yes. Now, the question right now is how to look at the monetization process. Clearly, Twitter right now is in the beginning of its journey. They went public right now and is valued around in the $25–30 billion range. They have a lot of money in the banks right now. But key right now, and the penetration of Twitter in the United States and the world is really still minimal. So really, there's a lot of potential to grow up right now.
There's a lot of world out there.
Oh yes, I mean with 2.4 billion internet users and more than 1.5 billion smartphones, the potential for Twitter is still great and spectacular.
Well, I mean, let's walk through your investment. I mean, $300 million is not a whole lot of money for you.
It's a lot for anyone.
Yeah, indeed, I'm sure it is. But at the same time, when you look at your net worth and you look at the other investments that you have, you invested $300 million at the time before it went public. Okay, you were convinced that the future of social media was very good and that Twitter could be as big as Facebook?
Yeah, when we look at our investments, it's very important to look at the entry barrier to the industry and the competition, and to look at the future aspects of that company. So clearly, when we analyzed Twitter, we believed in its business model, and clearly, although monetization was not fully baked into the price of the company, but that's where the risk is. That's where the calculated risk is that you bet on the company that its future is bright, and you bet that monetization process will be successful. And we're seeing indications right now of a success in the monetization process.
And when you look at News Corp, what do you see?
Well, News Corp now
is split into two.
Now it's two. It's Fox now and News Corp. Clearly, this is a conglomerate that's very diversified in media, and this is really the only company, and especially Fox, is the only company right now that is present in 5 continents. So yes, we have a lot of confidence in Mr. Murdoch and his family. And I just visited him today, and he looks very good.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
Oh, he's very good shape.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what about succession?
I think the issue of succession is at the end of the day, God forbid if something happens to Mr. Rupert, there's a board of directors that has very able people that could really take over. And his son James is a very capable person. And as I told you last time in your show here, that God forbid something happens to Rupert, I think James is definitely a Rupert number 2.
He's your guy to succeed Rupert if something happens.
Yes.
Nothing has changed.
No. Yeah. Consistent.
Okay. Citicorp.
Yes.
How does that look? You met also with the CEO of Citicorp.
Yes, I just met Mr. Corba today, and definitely is very optimistic about the future. And clearly the results of Citi in the last 2 quarters have proven to be a success, and proven that Mr. Corbett's strategy of really, if not increasing revenues, at least maintaining revenues in this tough environment, and controlling costs, and reducing cost actually, which is really makes our operating leverage positive, is very important.
So what do you think of what's happening in J.P. Morgan and all the fines that they're paying, or all the settlements that they're paying?
Well, J.P. Morgan is a giant bank, and they survived the crisis of 2008, 2009, 10, and but unfortunately, right now they have to pay the price of some of the acquisitions that they've done.
Exactly.
Yes.
Looking to the future, is there a sector of the economy that you like a lot? Is it technology and social media? Is it financial institutions? Is it hotels? Is it all of those, but one that I don't know about that seems very, very attractive to you.
Well, you know, Kingdom Holding is a Saudi-based company,
Right.
and it's very diversified. We are in almost 14 industries. So really, and these industries are in regionally, and internationally, and even Saudi Arabia. So really, it depends on each country. You know, so for example, real estate right now used to be a taboo word a few years in the United States, and in Saudi Arabia, it's really it's been booming industry since last 4 or 5 years. So really, it depends.
Saudi Arabia.
Exactly, yes. So although in the United States right now we are beginning to see that the plateauing of the real estate, and it's going up.
Housing buildings are up. Yeah.
So really, it depends on which country and which
How about
continent.
China then?
Well, China itself is a continent, you know, 1.3 billion people, and it's growing. But it's very much a controlled economy. It's very much, it's a controlled economy. Although its economy is a capitalistic company, yet the country is very much communistic and centralized. So we have to see if these two issues can really survive for long term.
And Latin America?
Well, Latin America, yeah, there are some pockets of weaknesses over there, but you know they're moving slowly. But you know,
Mexico?
Yeah, well, Mexico right now is a star in Latin America. Although Brazil right now beginning to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Mexico with the oil-based industry that they have right now over there, it's really it's in stronger terms than others.
Forbes magazine had a report on your net worth, which you did not like and thought was inaccurate. So you sued them?
No, since Kingdom Holding went public, some reporters in Forbes, not Mr. Forbes, some reporters in Forbes tried to really challenge the market capitalization of Kingdom Holding, and we just didn't mind that at all. But in the latest issue, they hit my integrity of Saudi Arabia, and the integrity of the stock market in Saudi Arabia. And that's when we didn't accept at all. And that's why we not sue them for
You asked for a correction.
We asked for a correction,
yes,
and retraction,
yes,
of their mistake and of their accusing Saudi Arabia of being casino. Right. You know, how can you accuse Saudi Arabia and the stock market of Saudi Arabia being like a casino? Right. This is a country, it's not regulated, over-regulated.
So the stock market was a casino.
Exactly, and that's why, and you know, my wealth is linked to the market capitalization of my company.
Right.
So really, when they use and underestimate my wealth, I didn't mind at all that. I didn't even care about it.
Right.
But when they come and touch the integrity of Saudi Arabia and the stock market in Saudi Arabia, which is very regulated, that's something, it's a taboo. That's the red line.
Think about your legacy, and you know what imprint you want to have, and where your sort of philanthropic interests might be. Yeah. Where are they?
It's a very good question, because I think 2014 and 2015 are going to witness a major shift in our philanthropical situation, whereby we'll be announcing some big announcement about that. And as you know, we are involved with many U.S. entity-based, like the Carter Center, like in certain projects in East Africa to eradicate some diseases. We're also involved with Mr. Bill Gates in his effort to really eradicate
global
polio.
Health.
Yes, we are involved in
polio eradication.
Yes, so we are really involved with many U.S.-based entities in many good international causes.
And so what else do you want for your legacy?
Well, you know, I would like to remember to be a man that has helped his nation, has his country, to make change in a time where change is needed on the social front, economical front, and political front.
Social front, primarily women?
Well, I mean, women empowerment, and I mean, elevating of poverty, increasing employment in many areas.
Any role that you would want diplomatically or somehow as an extension of the government? I mean,
frankly,
other than the private sector?
If I were in the government, I couldn't be sitting with you today here.
That's a point well taken, yes. It's great to see you. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to be here, Charlie.
Back in a moment. Stay with us.